Hi everybody, welcome to Denmark House TV. The first in a series of videos will be popping up on the website to keep you all informed on what's happening at the club. I hope you're staying safe at home and social distancing, wearing your masks. Joined here today by Bent Petersen, who's one of the trustees of the club, who's going to have a bit of a chat to us today about some of the history here at Denmark House, more so at our CBD venue. Firstly, just a couple of things. Thanks for renewing your memberships to all of those of you that have renewed so far. If not, still plenty of time to renew, and if you do need an extension or a payment plan, please let me know. But huge support coming out for a lot of the members, and we do really appreciate that. At the moment, we're doing takeaway. We've got the Denmark House bottle shop open as well, so get in touch with us at the club if you'd like some Danish food or Danish aquavit or alcohol. I've got some events coming up, hopefully when we get back to normal in a few months. The Burger King dinner, which was postponed, Queen's birthday lunch also was postponed, and the members' lunches and events that we do. Hopefully in the next few months we'll play a bit of catch up with those. But yeah, without further ado, Bent, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate you making the trip into the city in this cold weather. For those of you that don't know, Bent, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the club.
Yeah. I've been a member of the club on and off since 1970 when we first arrived in Australia, but it wasn't really until 2005 that I got involved at the committee level. This was after the membership had run down fairly substantially, and there were outside influences that were trying to take over the premises in Beaconsfield Parade. So the new committee in 2005 had a number of things to get sorted out. One was turnover, it was running at fairly hefty losses. The other was to secure the premises, which was being run by some fairly unsavoury characters at the time. So we set that in train from about mid-2005. The main issue was to raise the turnover, and we looked at possibilities of merging with other clubs. But the club scene in Victoria was basically split in two. There were the clubs that had assets but no cash flow, or that had cash flow but no assets. So our job really was to find a way out where we would have both. We tried mergers with the Victoria Club, with the Sydney Swans, their Melbourne part. We tried to rent out the restaurant part of Beaconsfield Parade. But all of these things eventually came to a poor conclusion that it wasn't going to do what we needed to do. At that stage, we then had to realise on our assets. And it was a really long stretch and really hard-taking decisions at the committee level to work out what to do. And it was not a decision taken lightly when the committee decided that the sale was going to be the best way out. We are now in mid-2007 after we've got rid of all our legal problems and all our possibilities, and just leaving the sale as the last option. At that stage, we had a valuation on the clubhouse of $8.5 million. We set about a tender process to find interested parties, and finally in December 2007, we sold the clubhouse for just over $12 million.
Right.
It was bought as a private residence. We were not keen on selling to developers. Invariably, developers just looked at it as a cash thing rather than preserving the heritage out of the building. The purchaser was going to use it as a residence, which fitted in with where we wanted to go. The next step then was to find out what do we do from here. And the decision was made to rent for a while, bearing in mind that the membership was down to 250. At the height of the club, we had 1,200 members and a waiting list.
Right.
But the arrival of fringe benefit tax, 0.05, and introduction of gaming machines basically killed a lot of clubs as far as their heritage were concerned. At that stage, you weren't able to get a Danish meal at the club. It was outsourced to a restaurant that didn't do Danish food.
Okay. So
there wasn't really anything at the club that would tie Danish people to it. So we needed to switch that over and find something that was more palatable. We did a good deal with the purchaser in that they needed to get all their planning permits in order. So we got half of the purchase price up front and the other half at settlement. That of course allowed us to get rid of our mortgage and start looking for other premises and fitting them out. So the whole deal transformed into a very good economic situation. We then went about to cleaning out the old club, retaining some of the memorabilia from there.
What year was it established, the old club? How long were you there for?
The Danish Club was originally established in 1889.
89, yeah.
And it operated out of various venues until it bought the premises in Beaconsfield Parade in 1937.
Okay, quite a while.
For the princely sum of £4,500.
Right.
And yeah, so we've been at the club since then. We now had to go about finding new premises, and the idea was to find something that suited the 250 members, then build up the membership, and when we got to the old level or something in between, we could then decide possibly to buy new premises, but we needed to find out where the membership level was at, so we didn't buy anything that was too little or too big. Yep. As it's turned out, the size of the premises what we have now has worked out to be quite suitable for the membership numbers, in that rarely we have to turn people away. But going about finding it was difficult, as whenever you have to deal through a committee, there's usually up to a number of different opinions. But I'm happy to say that we had a unanimous decision on 428 Worksley. Yep. So we cleaned out the old premises, retained some, sold off some, and then we set about finding new premises. We found the premises here in late 2008. We got an architect assigned to do the layout, and part of that was some people that have also been involved in the Danish embassy in New South Wales.
Okay.
So we kept it within the Danish family, if you like, and the main contractor was also of Danish origin.
Right.
That was a large project, as you could imagine, dealing with tradespeople and making sure the right people came in the right order so everything would come to fruition. We decided to do it Danish, and one of our committee members happened to be in Denmark at the time and sourced a whole lot of designer furniture, including our famous lamp. And so everything you see in here is Danish designer, right down to the bowls and the knives and forks, glasses and everything else. That was a big job that took nearly 9 months to complete. And finally in June 2009, we moved in. needless to say, when we did open, the members flocked in here in great numbers.
Right. So at the moment, we're running the club as a bar and restaurant day to day. But when you first moved to the city, it's evolved a lot since then. So when you first moved to the city, what would members expect day to day?
We probably need to go back a step or two before that. The Danish Club Bent Beaconsfield Parade was basically a function venue for whenever we had Danish functions on, and we had a lot of various functions like Morton's Afton and Queen's birthdays and anything that could be celebrated was celebrated.
Right.
The Queen's birthday lunch, for example, used to be a 3-day thing, where the members would come for lunch on the Friday and not go home until the Sunday morning at some stage. So there were big functions. Besides that, they had a very famous Friday buffet lunch that the luncheon fraternity in Melbourne, everybody knew about.
Okay. And
it was a sought after venue. This again was pre-0.05, and the restaurant had a seating capacity of about 120. And on Friday lunches, that was booked out every Friday.
Right.
Day to day, the club was open until the last member left, which usually was early in the mornings. The bar was open, but as far as food was concerned, you were really only able to get Danish food at functions or on the Friday lunches. We then had the arrival of the gaming machines in the early 90s, and that really killed off the prestige that the Danish club had represented up until that stage. It was seen as being less valuable being a member, and with the 0.05 didn't help either.
Yeah.
So when we came to moving, we made a must-have list, which was being closer to where the members were, so you could get here by public transport. Danish food, Danish fit out, so it represented everything Danish, which the old clubhouse was not able to do. And hence, when you come to the club today, it is probably the best example outside Copenhagen of what a Danish house would look like.
Sure.
And I know that appeals to a lot of people, not just the Danes.
Yes. Yeah.
The fact that you can now get only Danish food makes it something special, and there's a lot of people that uses it as that special experience where they want something new.
Yes, yeah, it's quite unique to Melbourne.
Yeah, we did have one disagreement when we fitted out the new premises, and that was around the bar area. Originally, the bar was set up as part of the kitchen.
Okay.
Now, with people knowing the old Danish club, it was more the kitchen attached to the bar than the other way around.
Yes.
So it took us 2 or 3 years before we finally all agreed that what was the boardroom or private dining room as it was set up in those days needed to be a bar so we could get back to our roots and spend time in the bar, which is a hugely Danish thing.
Right, yep.
We then converted that to what you see now. And looking at the patronage we get at the bar, I think we've been reasonably successful in fulfilling a hole in the Danish want.
Yes, yeah.
And I would think that probably now the bar is as frequented as the dining room would be.
I think so too, yeah, especially at night time.
So the fact that we can now get Danish food, Danish ambience, a lot of history, I think has enticed a lot of Danes back. It's probably worth talking about the membership a little bit. In the days at Beaconsfield Parade when we had the 1,200 members, a huge portion of that was Danes. The problem being that a lot of the Danes came to Australia in the 50s in the migrant days when Australia was trying to build up its population. But Danish people have a habit of integrating very quickly into new areas. And hence the second generation was not as Danish-minded as the original migrants.
Okay.
But luckily, we are now getting to a situation where the third generation are now rethinking their roots in Denmark, and we see a lot of younger people getting involved in Danish traditions, Danish language, and the like.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I think you see it here at the club a lot. A lot of the membership base is getting younger. All of our patronage is getting younger as well. I think Scandinavian culture is getting quite popular.
I think also the fact that we now have a close relationship with the Danish school.
Yes.
That they have their classes here starts the younger people understanding the Danish club from a young age.
Yes.
Which would then help our memberships as they get to 18 and beyond.
Yeah.
Personally, I think the fact that we are now having more Danish functions, including social events that are not necessarily restaurant-based, but more gathering-based and exhibitions, Danish artists and the like, is a great plus.
Yes.
And should certainly be encouraged as time goes on.
So with this pandemic, I guess it's given us an opportunity to stop and reflect on where we've been and where we're headed. So it'd be great to get someone that's been as involved as you with the club, your opinion or some ideas on where you'd like to see the club go in the future.
Sure. Historically, most of the Danish club members came in the 1950s migration intake. We are now getting into second generations who were not as Danish-minded, but the third generations are. But if we can tap into the younger Danes, and probably even start earlier, either at confirmation age, which is a big deal in Denmark, where they have big family get-togethers and really coming of age type thing. But even taking it to the school level, where in Denmark when you finish your year 12, it's a really big deal, and as a lot of Danes would know, you get your studenter hat, and as long as you wear that around Copenhagen, you can get away with just about anything. I think it's a huge tradition that we could probably work on here, that kids in finishing year 12 that are Danish descent use that as the introduction to the club. And I'm sure pardon me, we can put our hands on sufficient studenterhood to fit out the young people. And I think that would be an excellent introduction to the club and get all those kids who may not otherwise meet, but who are all out of Danish descent, all finishing their school, and that would be a good get-together for them to bond with like-minded kids of the same age.
Yeah, great introduction to the club.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think with the renewed Danishness around the country, particularly with Princess Mary, there's a lot more interest than there were, say, 34 years ago. And we saw it when the Crown Prince couple visited in 2011. It was one of the biggest functions we had, standing room only. Yep. And I think the tie to the it's something that we should be proud of. They've been here on a number of occasions, and I'm sure, given the opportunity, that they will be back before too long.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, when Crown Prince Frederick hits the #1 spot and becomes the king.
Hopefully.
And I think that would be a nice thing to look forward to. The club is now 130 years old and one of the oldest clubs in Melbourne. And the fact that we have now segregated the finances of the club with the assets of the club, we are now in an enviable position whereby we have the two prong that not many clubs have, and that is a foundation that holds the proceeds we got from the sale, and from the income of that it supports the running of the club. So we will maintain our asset, and we have a terrific cash flow that will see us way into the next
130 years, hopefully.
Quite easily. The 8 million that we had left over from the sale of the premises are now sitting tucked away and has a value of close to 15 million. And the income we earn from that will truly see us through the next 130 years. So we're doing well. Let's get the young kids involved. That's where the growth is going to come from.
Absolutely it is. Oh, great. Well, thanks, Ben. I've learned a lot myself, and I hope some of you guys have also picked up a few things that you didn't already know about the club. And it's been great to talk to you, Ben. Cheers.
No, my pleasure.
Thank you.